Behind the DM screen, some more ravings from the Game Master Madman for you. I've switched my little background here a little bit, so you're not seeing like the board games that were over there. Now you can kind of see some of the massive collection of RPG books that I have, and this isn't all of them. We are in the process of ripping up the flooring in the basement area here where my office and my filming area is, and pretty soon, like hopefully, I'm going to be transporting most of these items to storage. We're going to rip up most of what's down here. It's also going to be like a huge situation of like liquidating most of the junk that I have. Most of the board games gone, most of the RPG books gone. I'm going to be, either donating them or selling them off or whatever. I'm not doing some of you are gonna like look at, I want that, and that's cool. I don't mind people like checking that stuff out, but honestly, unless you're local, it just I'm not gonna deal with shipping. I mean, unless it was somebody who just said, you know what, I'll give you X amount of dollars and just I'm gonna like drive there in like 18 pickup trucks and pick it all up and leave. Then I'd be like, cool, done, head on over, grab this stuff, take it out. And people are like, oh, why are you getting rid of this stuff? It's just I have too much. I mean, there's some select stuff that I'm gonna keep, and I'm going through everything and picking, but I mean, I'm trying to get everything condensed down. I'm just trying to have less because I have so much stuff that I'm never gonna play, I'm never gonna read, and clear off the shelves, start fresh, and kind of just maintain a quality collection instead of a quantity collection. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about 5 ways you can be a better game master, dungeon master, referee, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to use dungeon master just because that's what I've always called it ever since the first time I ever sat down to run a D&D game for my older brother and his friends, which was a pretty awesome moment. I've talked about that a few times during these little speeches or little ramblings that I do. I will always, my older brother is one of the people in my life that definitely has driven me crazy more than once. We've definitely brothers, we've been in conflict, but I love him dearly, and I love him for thousands of reasons. But one reason I definitely love him is because he really implanted a love for D&D and board games and just games in general in me. My parents got divorced when I was very young, and my older brother kind of became, not that my dad's awesome, and I spent a lot of time with my dad, and I did tons of things with my dad, and I'll talk about playing D&D with my dad at some point. But my older brother kind of took on another father figure role for me. And I still remember the day that like he saw me, he told me about D&D, told me it was fun. I got the books that my wonderful mother picked up for me, and I remember he saw me reading the books, and they said that they needed somebody to run a game. They needed somebody to run a D&D game, and I remember he trusted me to be able to do that, and he trusted me to be cool. And I apologize for all the clunking. My 2 cats apparently are having the zoomies right now, so they're tearing all over the place. But regardless, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I've always considered a dungeon master. I realize that that terminology might not be exactly, it has a double meaning now and all these other things that kind of are loaded into it, and I'm not talking about that stuff. That's the terminology I'm going to use. Anyway, so I did a thing about top 5 ways I thought that players could be better players, and now I'm going to do like top 5 ways if you're going to run a game, how you can run a game better. Now, I'm not going to go into like make sure you know the rules or make sure you read all the module or anything like that. That stuff's pretty self-evident, right? I mean, if you're going to run the game, you need to know the rules as good or better than anyone else sitting at the table. That's just my opinion. Yes, you can ask somebody, it's like, oh, how does that work again? Or you can say something like that. But as far as actually like dictating the flow of the game and dictating, these cats. As far as dictating all of that, Like, you kind of have to, like, be able to just say that that's the rule and go with it. Now, you don't have to know every single spell in the spell book or every single, like, modifier to combat or anything like that. You can rely on players, or you can rely on your books to look that up quick and check that out. But as far as, like, the bare bones, the processes, you need to know those. And so I'm not going to talk about that stuff. I mean, that's probably like a 0.5 instead of my number 1, right? I mean, you just need to be prepared, and preparation is key when you're a person running the game. Just because they're relying on you to kind of be the person that is, you know, shoving the rock down the hill, right? And you know, it doesn't always have to go straight. It can go this way or that. You just got to make sure that you are the one that is keeping your foot on the gas and making sure that things are going forward. So now then, my first thing that I want to say is that go buy. I'm reading off of this right now, but go buy a small little notepad like this, and I'm a big fan of, like, these smaller notepads. One, they're cheap. You can usually pick them up at any big box store or like you can pick them out online or anywhere. But they're cheap and they don't take up a lot of space. Like, you know, table space is important. You want to have enough room for all of your books, all of your rules, and everything like that. But have something like this handy. So you can take notes. Taking notes is not just the player characters, the people running the player characters' job, right? It is not just their job to write down important information that you're conveying to them as far as different plot points, locations, NPCs, things like that. It is very, very important for the Dungeon Master to do so as well. One of the main things I think that, like, a Dungeon Master should do, and this should be highlighted in big bold letters on the top of the page on your notes, something you can go back to and you look at every single time, is you write down each person that you're playing the game with. Whether they're longtime friends or the first time you've ever done so, write down the name of each person that you're playing with, and then write down the name of their character next to it. And you're saying, why? Well, the reason for that is that get into the habit of calling the people at your table by their character names. Now, that doesn't seem like a big deal, and it really probably isn't. But if you are consistently telling somebody, like, you know, you're looking at somebody and it's like, Hadrathus, the Lord turns to you and stares at you, like glaring down at you, and says, what kind of excuse do you have for interrupting the royal party this evening? That for me makes so much better. As like when you look over the play, hey Jason, the Lord looks at you and he says, hey, you know, you better have a good excuse for what's going on here, you know. And obviously I'm using a tonal inflection there that isn't there, but when you address somebody by the role that they're playing, by the character name that they're having, then it means so much more as far as, again, the zooms. It means so much more to the player because there's a buy-in there. There's an immersion. Get into the habit of calling people by, you know, obviously if you're like, hey, hand me a piece of pizza, Jason, is something different. You know, you're not like, you know, Hadrathus, Hadrathus, hand me that pepperoni pizza over there. I would like a slice. No, but you get my meaning, right? So get into that habit. And eventually if you start doing it over and over and over and over again, you're not even going to be able to have a look at those notes. And you're going to have that present and it's going to be available, and it's like, once again, it's going to help with the immersion, it's going to help with the overall aspect of what's going on the table. Also, don't rely on your memory to remember, because characters, first of all, in my campaigns, characters die not regularly, but it's not uncommon, right? So and nobody ever like chooses a normal name. Like Hadrathus is a real name for this halfling warrior that is in a campaign that I'm running right now. And then, you know, and everybody's always like, my name is Escalastapan, you know, and things like that. Like, you know, they're just basically like, I think just, you know, vomiting up the alphabet and then just picking things that work. And that's where they're going. So, yeah, and of course, my friend Joel, he has his character, Warren. the cleric. And strangely enough, Warren is like the only original character from this campaign. All the other players have lost their characters at one point or another, or retired them because they no longer wanted to play that character. But that's a good reason to take notes. Other notes that you're taking is where they're going, what they're doing, what's going on. If the characters do something that you think is going to have some sort of long-lasting effect on the campaign, like as far as they betray a certain NPC, or they sold a certain magical artifact in a certain town, or things like that. You know, maybe that never comes up again. Maybe it doesn't bother. But if you write down, sold the Gauntlet of Might to merchant in the town of Farhill, you can put, and then later on, as you're going through your notes, you can sit there and say, huh, what if that evil NPC party went through Farhill and they had just slain that young green dragon that was marauding the area? They had some gold and they bought that Gauntlet of Might. And so now all of a sudden you have a situation where maybe they run into that evil party, they're spelunking the ancient dwarf fortress, and all of a sudden they're coming out there with ill-gotten goods, you know, from down in the depths. And as they're licking their wounds and they're barely scraping by, you know, here comes, you know, the evil marauder gang that they've dealt with multiple times that are just jerks, and all of a sudden, and then, you know, Koronos, their fighter leader, he walks up and he holds up his arm and he's got the glowing Gauntlet of Might and said, it's like, thank you for selling this to the merchants in Hillsfar. It'll be useful as I pound you into the ground. You know, that's something, once again, it makes this living, breathing world that they're inhabiting. And then they're like, why did you sell that? Why did you sell? Yeah, because the guy's getting bashed into the ground over again. Why? And all of a sudden, everybody's got a little more buy-in into what's going on. Notes are very, very important, as also because people are going to pick an NPC that you had no business ever picking out. Like, who is the errand stable boy for that second blacksmith down there? I don't know. And this is where either having a random name generator, or back in the day, I used to have a copy of the Silmarillion, which I would just flip open to a random page, you know, and then find a name on that page, and I would give that name to that thing. And then, oh, that's Estok, the errand boy. Oh, okay. And then, you know, 3-4 sessions on the run, whatever happened to that errand boy? What was his name again? And now you can flip through your notes and go, oh, that was Estok. That was Estok, the errand boy. Yeah, he's dead. You know, horrible errand boy accident. Yes, met his fate at an intersection. 2 carriages, you know, hit them side to side, that sort of thing. But that's good. And so, and taking notes means that you are buying into the campaign as well. And if you lead by example, your players are going to understand and get, you know, interested in the campaign as well. All right. Number two, get everyone involved. And now, so it doesn't matter how long you've played with the group that you played with, whether it has been the very first session or you played with them for decades, like I have. There's always going to be somebody that, like, is going to take center stage, and they're going to enjoy the moment. They're going to, you know, chew the scenery with their character, and they're gonna, and God bless those people. God bless those players who just, you know, and I like to think I'm kind of like that. I'm not saying for sure that I am, but I'd like to think that I am. But God bless the players who just want to take the center stage and stand up and say, you know, it's like, oh, you know, and just like, and get into their character and have like hand gestures and gnashing of teeth, or like valiant, you know, proclamations of do-goodery, and you know, and they make it fun for everybody at the table, right? But here's the deal: when you have somebody that is like taking center stage, then they're in the center stage, right? Nobody else can really, nobody can sidle up next to the person and be center stage as well. And so what happens usually in most groups is that you have somebody that stands up and does something big, and somebody else has a chance to stand up and do something big, and so on and so forth, back and forth, right? And the situation you have there is that there is always usually going to be 1 or 2 people that, like, don't get the chance to, like, be like that, right? And be in the center stage and have the spotlight focused on them. And in a lot of cases, sometimes people don't mind that, right? Don't mind the fact that they're just kind of waiting, and they're the person that is just helping out, or they are not like the focus of the situation. And again, that's fine. I mean, it's just like if they like that, but still, I don't know of anybody that doesn't like it when a certain point of the campaign focuses upon them and they have something cool to do. So if you have a character, if you have somebody that has kind of sat by the sidelines, let everybody else to kind of do something, have somebody drag them out into the spotlight for some reason. In the case of Warren, the cleric in the campaign that I'm running right now, Warren kind of just hangs back, doesn't do a lot, has fun, likes doing what he does. You know, he argues about he worships this. He's a neutral cleric who worships this god of magic, and we use a system where you have to roll to cast spells. They don't just work automatically. I'll talk about that at some point. Who knows? My house rules or whatever. So whenever he fails his spells, like, he always talks about what a fickle god that he worships. He's like, is today gonna be a good day? Are you gonna? And we all kind of laugh and joke around and see if, like, he's gonna get his things responded to and that. But as far as, like, being the focus of the situation, he isn't. But I also know that Joel, the guy who runs Warren, he enjoys that. He enjoys those moments of where he is. So come up with something for those characters. Like in the case of that cleric, have somebody approach him that wishes to join his church and wants to know the processes of like what the tenets of the faith are. And have somebody within that church that is you know, he comes to town and all of a sudden, like, Warren's barely, because the god he worships doesn't have a lot of followers, and so, like, have him come to town and actually see somebody that has the same holy symbols and the same vestments as he does. I've done that. And then, like, he's immediately like, oh, hello, what's going on? And of course that leads to, like, possibilities of, like, adventures that involve, like, his church and, like, artifacts they need to recover, or things like enemies of the church that need to be spied on or tracked down and done away with, or things like that. So give them a moment to shine, and I'll talk more about this when I do my how I mostly DM on the fly, especially if somebody's having a bad day. The dice rolls are just going against them, right? And there's always that one player who, like, it just seems like every other roll is a 19 or a 20. They're just having the time of their lives, and they're chopping things down left and right. When the big bad ogre mage or whatever is in combat, and they're down to very few hit points, and whatever, they have 7, 11, 12, 4 hit points or whatever, and everybody's kind of like, and they're trying to get away, and they're like, ow, and everybody makes that final attack or whatever. If the player that's been having the bad day, like, hasn't gotten the rolls that they've needed, no matter how many hit points that thing has left, and if they manage to get that final good roll where they're like, come on, just give me one, and they roll like an 18 or whatever, and they hit, right? I mean, at that moment, like, even if they're like, it's like, oh, he's got like 7 hit points left, and they shoot an arrow and it does 5 points of damage, as the DM, I'll be like, he turns and he goes, it's like, you may have won this day, but I will be, and the arrow hits him in the eye, and he, like, stands there and has a gasp, like, astonished look in his eyes, and he crumbles to one knee and falls flat on the ground. And everybody's like, yeah! And they high-five the person who finally got that one good roll. And I guarantee you, at some point in that session or the next session, they're gonna say, it's like, man, I was rolling horrible all session, and then right when I absolutely positively needed it, I got that roll, and everybody's like, yeah, that was awesome, you know, it's like what's more. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things to me where it's like that fits, and that's a good moment. And I'm a believer when I run a game in good moments, high five moments at the table, and players and DMs alike can work to make those moments happen. So and that's something, again, I'm touching on something that I want to talk about as far as DMing on the fly, but and I will dive deeper into that with another one of these videos. But just keep that in mind, and keep in mind that like you can make your tabletop experience more dramatic and more exciting by pulling other people, pulling somebody that was in the shadows for most of the session and pulling them out into the spotlight, and making a moment for them, and they're going to enjoy it and they're going to be happy. So think that. All right, so this kind of ties into the next one. Let the players win. Now that doesn't mean they have to win every single time. I'm not talking about, you know, going into a dungeon, killing 4 kobolds and finding 7,000 gold pieces. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that if their goal is to return, return the One Ring to Mount Doom and throw it in the lava, let them accomplish that. Now, that doesn't mean they can't have situations where bad things happen along the way, where things, you know, get in their path and stop them from being successful. By all means, you have to have friction along the process to get to the success. But the big thing is that you need to let them win. And you also, there's a fine balance there. You also need to, like, make sure that they win a lot. And one of the best ways you can let players win is that you need to make your... Like, I'm all in favor of tweener bad guys, like, you know, and bad girls for that matter. I'm all in favor of, like, you know, of like the ecological terrorist that says, oh, you're destroying the swamps, and you're making it so like the people that live in the swamps don't have their home anymore. So that's why I'm attacking the kingdom. Okay, well, you know, it's like you're kind of bringing in some good points there why you would attack the kingdom, but you're also still killing farmers, so we really can't just let you do that, you know. So I love evil druids. Evil druids are something I've used in many, many campaigns, and I think they're a fantastic evil NPC. But if you're gonna go full bore evil, you know, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of just making sure things are just outright evil, and it doesn't even have to be a big bad. I recently ran a campaign, and the campaign I'm running, they recently had an issue where, like, basically, like, these 3 goblins had, like, a group of, like, 3rd and 4th level players. These 3 goblins just basically had the entire party on the ropes, because of where a trap was, and because of the inability for them to reach them, and their ability to, like, just sling these sharp sling stones at them, and, like, just it was just rough. And these players are just so mad at these 3 goblins, because not only are these goblins keeping them at bay, but they're also just taunting them, just like, yeah, and like, you know, and just like, you know, being complete and total dirtbags to the party. Now, when they managed to kill one of them, they were like, yeah, and the thing is that, and then the other 2 ran away. And then the players actually made a moment. It's like, what did they look like? They were like, we got to make sure, because they wanted to basically, when they see them again, they're going to make sure that they pound them into the dirt. And if you make your evil ones really, really evil, like just like grotesquely, you know, buffoonery, you know, super evil, like cartoonish supervillain, if you will, you know, then the players will feel all the much better when they finally do the cathartic release of taking those people out. Will be a fantastic feeling of euphoria for them. I had a couple of evil NPCs that I basically would not let die for, and they survived over like several campaigns. I mean, technically they're probably still alive. They never did. They always lived. And the thing was, it was like they were basically these 2 thieves that worked together, and they were always messing with the party and screwing with them and screwing with them and screwing with them. And if I could go back I would have tried to come up with a, like, amazing way for the players to finally track those two down and finally, you know, get their, have the two thieves get their just desserts from the player characters. And I never did. And to this day, I kind of always just said Rhaegar and Gregory were these two thieves, and they stole from the players. They murdered their friends. They were just outright evil. But I loved them so much that as a DM, I wouldn't let them die. And that was wrong. That was absolutely wrong. I should have let them finally track them down. You know, like make it into an epic adventure of, like, you know, they steal like some amazing artifact. They're trying to bring this artifact to this, like, hidden temple in the mountains, you know, to, you know, basically, you know, for whatever, like, ridiculous, like, end goal they have, taking over the world, becoming demigods, who knows, right? And like, but have the players track them down, chase them down, giant, huge battle at the end, and they finally get them. And I never did, and that's unfortunate. But letting the players win, they're the heroes after all, so they need to win, and they should win. So remember that. All right, so now this is one. This is there's an old proverb of the mighty oak tree speaking to the reed, and the oak tree is talking about how strong it is and how it can withstand anything. And it talks about how weak the reed is, and how weak, like how it can't stand up to anything. And then a mighty wind comes, and the reed is just blowing in the wind, but then the wind pushes the oak tree over. And as the oak tree lies on the ground and dying, you know, it asks the reed, you know, it's like why is this happening to me? And the reed said, something along the lines of, it's just like, you know, I bow to the wind because I know that it is stronger than any of us, and when I bow to it, I give it its respect, and it leaves me, and it lets me go. It doesn't destroy me. And be the reed as the DM. I have been very rigid as a DM in many situations where I think that the story should go in a certain direction, and it should go right like this, and this is going to be point A, and this is going to be point B, and point C, and point D, and this is how the adventure is going to go. And I think that the players may have had a good time and may have enjoyed themselves, but they also felt, and this is the whole, you know, railroaded approach, where they're like, oh, well, we didn't do exactly what they wanted, so now something bad happened to us, or whatever. And we have to, you know, like, as far as, you know, the process goes. And the situation you have there is that the players will probably forgive it as long as the story is good, as long as what's going on is interesting. But the moment that they feel like, wait a minute, I'm not really having fun, and I also don't feel like I have any autonomy here. I'm not having this. Why am I showing up every week and giving 4, 5, 6 hours of my life to play this game? And so there are ways to also be rigid, but also don't appear to be, which is like kind of. I should watch my words here. But like, it's one of those things where you can approach situations where you can let players feel like they have the choices that they have in a campaign, but all the roads kind of still funnel to the same direction. You know, it doesn't matter if they go to the Hobgoblin camp to get the information about where the secret temple is, or if they investigate the weird cult in the city to find out where the secret temple is. Whichever direction they choose, the secret can be in those spots. But if you're basically saying, yeah, you can go to the Hobgoblin camp, but you know, you're not going to find anything there, and we wasted an entire session, and you killed some Hobgoblins, but you didn't find where the secret temple was, and now they actually managed to kill all those people, and you're to blame. Way to go. Yeah, I mean, no, just have the directions of the secret temple in the hobgoblin camp. Maybe there's a person from the cult visiting the hobgoblins, and let them do that. And that's being the read, like allowing the players to actually feel like they can do what they want, but they're still doing what you want, if you will. My friend Chris once talked about in his Star Wars campaign where he came up with this totally good idea for like a cantina on Tatooine, where he had all these like cool NPCs and things for the players to do in that thing, and they came up and they saw it on their land speeder, and they were like, well, let's just keep going because we need to get to this place we're heading to. And they kept going, and I was like, what did you do? And he was like, well, that's fine, it was just the next cantina that they found had those people in it, and it was just like, that's fine. I can roll with it. I'm not going to have a line of stormtroopers basically pointing their blaster pistols at them. Not that they'd hit them anyway, but to force them to turn around and go back. So your player character, you're dealing with dynamic people. You're dealing with people that are going to have ideas and suggestions, and they're going to be all over the place with what they're thinking about doing. You can't predict them. You can point them to the exact, you can like the whole thing, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You can point them in the exact spot that they need to go to get the information they need. But if they don't want to, they just won't to. And I mean, I've sat at a table, I've sat at this table and listened to my players talk about, well, we can go do this, 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 and none of those things are where they need to go, in my mind, where they need to go to get to the answers that they need for their campaign. But I just let them talk, and I mean, and let them figure it out and let them decide, because I know that wherever they go, the answers they're going to want are going to be there, or there's going to be something that's going to lead them to the answers. So don't just have one path for your players. You don't need a giant open world. You just need the ability to allow the path of your world to be windy and twisty and all over the place, but just all those winding roads eventually just lead. All the roads lead to Rome, that kind of thing. Just make sure the path that they take, wherever it is, whatever directions they go, it just leads to where you want to, because it's your world and you can make that happen. All right, and my last suggestion here, my last way to be, and these aren't really specific, these are more kind of up in the air, because a lot of the stuff that was in my top 5 things for players to be better, you can apply to being a DM as well. But the big thing is take feedback, and take the feedback well. There's nothing that, there's two things. Like, if somebody says, yeah, I don't think it should have happened like that. That's like a situation where a player is telling you, I don't think it should have been like that, and find out why. Find out, and maybe they're wrong. I mean, people can give you feedback that isn't correct. It's just one of those things where, but it's still feedback. I'm not saying you have to take a poll at the end of every session. I'm not saying that you have to totally revamp the way that you're running a campaign. What I'm saying is that there's going to come a time where somebody is going to say, and it's just like, well, the combats just seem really tough, and it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of reward for being in those combats. Now, you might be saying, well, there's no reason why you had to fight. There's no reason why you had to draw your swords in that moment and attack those people. You could have just talked to them and moved on. I didn't make you, and that's a valid point that you may have. But here's the deal. It is knowing your audience as well. And I talked about that in my last video. Knowing your audience as well. Like, if you have a group of players that are, shoot first, ask questions later, then if you're going to put a group of NPCs that they could just talk to, you have to know that there's a really good chance that they're going to want to, just murder them as well. And so, just plan accordingly. If they say, it's like, I just don't feel like there's any direction here, I don't know what we're doing, maybe you need bigger signposts. Maybe they need a NPC patron that they're saying, it's like, sending them off on missions and saying, I need you to go to this spot and I need you to pick up the lost amulet of Sapphire Dreams and you need to go get that for me and you need to come back here and then I'll send you out again. And sometimes that's what players like. They like just having a direction. Okay, go here, go into that cave, you know, kill the trolls, grab that amulet of the lost amulet of Sapphire Dreams, and bring it back to this guy, and then we'll go on the next mission. And if that's the way they want it, then do it. I mean, I would love that in a lot of the campaigns that I run. I would love the process of like just being able to just, because then I don't have to worry about everybody going willy and taking off and doing crazy stuff. But ultimately the big thing here is that you're gonna have to read the room. You're gonna have to tell people you're having fun. If people think that you should be doing X, Y, or Z, and then just talk to them about it. And if you don't want to talk to them on, if you feel like it's too confrontational, I mean, now we have text messages, we have emails, we have all kinds of ways that we can contact one another and discuss how things can work and how things will, you know, roll. And the big thing is that, you know, do it in between sessions. Don't do it at the session. Sometimes feedback is fresh, and like if somebody's like, you know, if they sleep on it, they'll realize, maybe that wasn't so bad, and I'm just, you know, having a little bit too much of an issue with what's going on. And just, but as the Dungeon Master, it's your job to be able to filter the feedback that they're giving you and process it, and also just like work within like what they want and what you want as well to make a good session. And I feel like if you are receptive to that, your players will notice that you're being receptive to that, and they will then in turn like be better players as well when it comes time to play. So there you go. 5 rambling things about what I think it takes to be a good Dungeon Master, being a good leader of a game. So please, by all means, if you have any comments or whatever about any of these things or things that you think that what it takes to be a good Dungeon Master, by all means, post those. I'd love to read those. I'd also like, if you aren't subscribed to the channel or what have you, you know, subscribe, hit the bell, do the whole thing. That'd be awesome as well. But in the meantime, just take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. Be good to your players. Be good to your DM. You know, and just. I don't know, just try to be the best version of you that you possibly can be. And I apologize again for the zoomy cats. They just, this the time of the morning, they got their friskies going. So until next time, I'm the Undead Viking. Take care.